and I was watching the 10 o'clock news, and I was almost blindsided by the scale of the wildfires in California. I've told you many times that my news antennae, or my instinct for where news editors will decide to go the following morning, is absolutely appalling. I went to bed confident that every front page today would feature scenes from Los Angeles in particular. I guess maybe it's because of the visual media that TV goes in harder than print. But we're looking at apocalyptic scenes in a country where a man whose mantra is burn, baby, burn, has just been re-elected president.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 10 o'clock, ministers have insisted there is no need to be worried about rising government borrowing costs. Long-term borrowing rates have surged to their highest level since 1998, driven by concerns about inflation and public debt. Analysts say it could also have a knock-on effect on mortgage borrowers. The shadow business minister, Harriet Baldwin, says Rachel Reeves' plan isn't working.
You're seeing at best flat growth in this time that we're in now, or even potentially a recession. And that's after last year, where the first half of 2024, the UK was the fastest growing country in the whole of the G7.
The Chancellor is heading to Beijing for talks on building economic and trade ties with China. A survivor of child abuse in Oldham has told LBC she was failed by the system. Samantha Walker-Roberts, who's waived her right to anonymity, was raped by up to 9 men in 2006. Only one was convicted of rape. She's told Nick there should be a government-led review of what happened in Oldham.
I've had an apology, but it doesn't mean anything.
What would mean something? What would mean something, Samantha?
Actually saying that we can look at prosecution, we can do more. They could have done a lot more back then, and I would have had a lot more successful prosecutions if they had done the job correctly. But now, because of the passage of time, they're very limited.
Ministers haven't ruled out a new inquiry, but say they're focused on implementing existing recommendations. 2 people have been charged with murder over the death of a baby in Warwickshire. The 1-year-old died in hospital in Rugby on Tuesday. One of the people charged, a 26-year-old man, is also accused of possessing indecent images. A man's been arrested on suspicion of starting a new wildfire in Los Angeles. At least 10 people are known to have died as 5 fires continue to be fanned by strong winds. Officials are also looking to impose a curfew to tackle looting. Police are investigating a sighting of another 2 lynx in the Highlands. Officers believe the sighting is connected to the abandonment of another 2 wildcats on Wednesday. They were safely captured yesterday. In the city, the FTSE 100 a short time ago was down 17 at 83.01. The pound buys $1.22 and the euro 19. LBC weather staying chilly with some bright spells for many places. Rain, sleet and snow moving into the West Country at times. A high of 8 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Thomas Watts.
The Virgin Atlantic Holidays Sale. It's a big deal, wherever you want to go in the world. Make waves in the Caribbean, go full throttle in Orlando, or fully unwind in the Maldives. But the biggest deal of all, you can book in-store and online right now. The Virgin Atlantic Holidays Sale. See the world differently. Selected routes apply. T's and C's at virginholidays.co.uk.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
That's very disappointing. Only 5 of you picked up on the deliberate mistake deliberate mistake that I made in my introduction. Well done to Greg, Roger, John, David and Tony. Donald Trump's mantra is, of course, drill, baby, drill, not burn, baby, burn. But you can see why I made that. You can see why I decided to make that deliberate slip. It wasn't deliberate, obviously. It was a proper slip. You can see why it happened, can't you? My brain's a funny place at the best of times, and I nearly started talking to you about Grenfell Tower before the news bulletin, because I find something that there is such a hideous symmetry sometimes between political rhetoric, dishonest political rhetoric, and the later reality, the later emergence of reality. So I'm afraid, hear the words of David Cameron talking about bonfires of regulations when I think about Grenfell Tower. I don't know whether you have that weird link in your memory banks as well, but I do, because up to and including Jacob Rees-Mogg maligning the memories of the people who actually died that night by suggesting that they lacked common sense. That there's a particular political slant that hates all form of protection and regulation, or laws that are designed to look after us. And bonfire of regulations assumes an epic resonance when you think about what happens when regulations regarding things like cladding are not properly imposed. And then you have this, for me at least, a juxtaposition of drill baby drill, or indeed burn baby burn, with the scenes that are going on in California. I've told you a couple of times recently, and I don't know how much longer we'll continue to talk about Elon Musk, or how much we will talk about him. But the things I need to check to make sure they're not jokes list seems to be getting longer all the time. I told you I had to check that he had actually called for Farage to be deposed as leader of Reform Limited, because I thought that seemed unlikely given the amount of knee bending and forelock tugging that old Farage had undertaken in the court of yet another billionaire. And I had to double check that. And the other one I've had to double check is that there would be attempts by Donald Trump's circle to blame what is happening in California on diversity and equality and inclusion training, or policies that are designed to address, systemic inequalities. And I think it was this rather jolly account called the New York Times Pitch Bot, which makes jokes about articles that the New York Times will publish in pursuit of ludicrous balance or false equivalence. And I think they did it. I think they did a joke about member of Trump's administration blames, it wasn't New York Times Pitch Bot, I think it may have been anyway, it doesn't matter who. Someone did a joke about, oh, crikey, I bet they try and blame it on diversity policies. And then Elon Musk did. And so has Kellyanne Conway, one of those other strange acolytes of the incoming United States president. It's extraordinary, really, isn't it, that they can make jokes about things that are too ridiculous to contemplate, and then they can happen. The things can happen. And of course people believe it, as otherwise they wouldn't do it, would they? Steve's already been in touch. He goes, yeah, you're a lefty, James, just like Newsom, who thought it was better to let geckos and newts have their homes instead of clearing the brush away. You can watch the events in California where houses are exploding, spontaneously igniting as the heat around them gets so high. And people like Steve-O are convinced it's because of policies introduced to protect newts. It's extraordinary. And you sit here and sort of think, why are people so desperate to believe that it's got anything to do with anything other than, ultimately, than climate change? And of course you remember, because Donald Trump says drill baby drill, and people like Steve start cheering. Drill baby drill. What do you do with the stuff that you drill? Burn baby burn. And one newspaper today, only one, carries on its front page, not the scenes from California, but news that world temperatures overshoot the 1.5% Paris deal for the first time. So you'll remember there was, for what it's worth, an internationally agreed 1.5 degree centigrade limit on global temperatures, and it went up for the first time last year. Climate breakdown driving the annual global temperature above the internationally agreed limit, which supercharges extreme weather and of course causes, and I'll say this in quotes because the report does, misery to millions of people. So the average temperature in 2024 was 1.6 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels. A jump of 0.1 from 2023, which was the hottest year ever, I think, and represents levels of heat never experienced by modern humans. But Stephen thinks it's because of newts. And that is because people like Donald Trump and Rupert Murdoch and various other media outlets and so-called think tanks have dedicated enormous amounts of effort to persuade incredulous people that what we are seeing in places like Spain with the flooding or California with the fires is all about diversity, equality and inclusion training, or policies to protect natterjack toads, and absolutely nothing to do with the continuing immolation of epic amounts of fossil fuels and the consequent belching into our atmosphere of the fumes that result. That's a very, very simplistic bit of science for you. So 10 minutes after 10 is the time. It's weird, isn't it? It's another day where we find ourselves guilty. Let's be absolutely clear about that. You don't have to be stupid, like Stephen. You could just be ambivalent, like me, or kind of like me. I feel the reason I use the word guilt is that every time we turn our attention to these stories, I know we should be doing more. When we talked about the floods in Spain, I said to you, I wonder whether this will change any minds. I wonder where Spain will be in 2 months' time. I wonder whether people will recognize that there is a need for deep and profound change in the way that we approach these matters. I think I read this week that 6 banks in America have already dialed down their commitment to to net zero, because Donald Trump is coming into the White House, and therefore they no longer need to pay lip service to the need for net zero. You will be aware of politicians in the UK who try to make mincemeat. Where am I getting mincemeat from? Try to make capital. Try to make hay. There you go. Not mincemeat. Hay. Tried mixing my metaphors horribly there. Tried to make hay with net zero. I think I understand why it works. It's the same old story, isn't it? You tell someone that those bad people over there who are trying to do good are actually trying to do bad and take something away. They want to steal your car. They want to steal your job. They want to steal your biscuits. Down with that sort of thing. So it's not dissimilar rhetoric to xenophobia, or similar. And then you take little bits of information away, don't you, from the scenarios in California. Did you know you're not supposed to have plants near your house? Did you know that? even something as simple as a flower bed near your house, you should have concrete and nothing else running up to your to the walls of your property, because if the plants go up, and they'll go up first because they're sort of organic material. If the plants go up, then of course they're next to the house, and that makes it more likely that they're going to set fire to the house. What I would say is that the scale of it is almost impossible for our minds to conceive. I've got friends who've abandoned their homes. I don't know. One family we're friends with doesn't actually know yet. They probably do by now, but when we made contact yesterday, they weren't aware. They were fairly pessimistic that their home would actually have burnt to the ground. Another one have put everything that they can conceivably, all their sort of valuables, and you know, I think actually I was speaking to him, we were swapping messages last night, and so he said something to me that had never occurred to me before. So you never think about the different kinds of valuable. So you might leave something behind that has much more material value than something you want to take with you, like in their case, the baby books. You know, the little books that you put together when the babies are born, with all of the first lock of hair in it, and the photographs of childbirth and things like that. So you take those with you, but you leave behind some electronic goods or even some sort of, you know, artwork that you might have on the wall, which is worth a lot of money, but which is going to go up in flames because you can only take with you what you can fit in your in their case, in your SUV, your sports utility vehicle. And you shouldn't have your wooden fencing too near the house either, Rob tells me, for the same reason. There's anger as well, of course, in what you see today. If you have been persuaded that it's all the fault of lefties or eco-activists or natterjack toads or slugs, you briefly feel stupid. So David's been in touch. He says, time to switch off rather than listen to this lefty idiot. So describing apocalyptic fires in California and recognizing what every scientist in the world acknowledges makes David feel so stupid, because he's been persuaded of the opposite, that he can't literally bear to listen. He can't bear to listen to this, because it's like looking in the mirror and seeing the stupidest man in the world looking back at you. And that's what Donald Trump appeals to. He takes away the feeling of stupidity and replaces it instead with a curious mixture of pleasure in other people's misfortune and celebration of ignorance. Why is California on fire? It's not a mystery. But if you ask Elon Musk, it's because of equality policies. If you ask Donald Trump, it's because of Gavin Newscum, is what he calls him. The governor of California is called Gavin Newsom. But as people are watching their homes burn to the ground and their livelihoods disappear, the incoming president of the United States of America is dedicating his time to thinking up hilarious, rude nicknames for his political rivals. Can we do this? Do we know? I mean, forgive me if I've done it before. I don't remember the answers if we have. But when we sit here a lot, don't we, talking about apathy, lethargy. I don't know how much of the lethargy is born of the lies, born of the climate change denial, born of the sort of net zero. Just ask them what their qualifications are, that's all. Farage's mates, what are your qualifications? Absolute net zero is a terrible con. How much money have you got invested in fossil fuel companies, and how much time did you spend studying climate science or any sort of science at university? Whatever the answers are to those questions should, of course, inform your attitude to any opinions expressed in this field. But here's what I don't know. Here's what I don't know. Right? What in an absolutely ideal world, and I don't know who can answer this, so I've got two questions for you. One I think will be quite easy to, well, not easy to answer, but one everybody can have a crack at, and one I don't think many people could, but you know that I have enormous, uncontrollable faith in my listeners, in my contributors. In an ideal universe, if you had a magic wand, let us say, or you had untrammeled power, not a magic wand, it has to be something that is achievable in the realms of corporeal reality. What would happen? What would governments do? I'm a little embarrassed, A, that I don't know, and B, that I've never asked you this before. So I know that we're supposed to stop using fossil fuels, but how would I get to work tomorrow? I know that we're supposed to make massive changes, but what would happen tomorrow? Does anybody know? If you really wanted to start driving down the global temperature, if you wanted to get it back below, or get the, and not just get the rises below where they should be, but even perhaps reversing it, what would you need to do? Here's some science, and I appreciate, and I know you're not listening anymore because you're so embarrassed by how stupid you feel, but I appreciate some people think the science is disputable, but the heating of the planet is primarily caused by the burning of fossil fuels. The damage to lives and livelihoods that we are watching unfold in real time in California will continue to escalate. It will get worse around the world until coal, oil and gas are replaced. Drill, baby, drill. Until coal, oil and gas are replaced. I don't know what that looks like. What does that mean? If you made me Prime Minister, if you made me King of the World, I sound like Boris Johnson now. I mean this, I genuinely mean this question. If you made me King of the World today with one mission, which is to reverse the escalation, to dial down the overheating of our planet, what would I have to do? Tomorrow. Like, literally. 0345 6060 Isn't it? I don't want to over-egg the pudding, or indeed make myself sound ridiculous when you're sitting there thinking that the opposite of what I'm thinking, but isn't it incredible that I've never heard anyone ask that question before? Have you? Have you? I haven't. I've never heard anyone ask that question before. I know what the slogans are. I know what the banners are. I know what the protests look like. I know what the broad, big picture ambition or necessity is. And I know roughly, although it's obviously not my strong suit, what the science tells us. But if you made me King of the World, what would I have to start doing at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning? Well, I'd probably get the show out of the way first. It wouldn't be fair to deny you of my daily burblings without proper warning. But it's Saturday tomorrow, so I can I work weekends. So if you made me king of the world, I get up tomorrow morning and start doing what? What would it look like? World leaders, heads of state, 0345 6060 973 is the number you need. One more visitor from Idiot's Corner, because I had a conversation with my wife this morning about the fact that it's not that hot in California at the moment. So here is Mark, who writes that you're flogging a dead horse here. It's only 21 degrees in California. How is that warm enough to start wildfires? It's obviously been arson. Maybe not Idiot's Corner, because it's not a rude message, that, albeit that it's incredibly ignorant. Wildfires are about how the fire and why the fire spreads, and the dryness of bushland, the dryness of gardens, the dryness of land is determined by the average temperatures over a long period of time. So I'll give you some advice, Mark. Okay, go and get 2 logs, right? Put one of them in a bath and put one of them in the oven on a low heat. So dry one of them out and soak one of them. Okay, so that allows you to create 2 alternative climates, one that's very warm and one that's not. And now try and set fire to those 2 logs in a 21 degree centigrade room, or 21 degree Fahrenheit, right? I don't know, just in a room that's not that hot. Now try and set fire to those 2 logs, and then come back and tell me why this is not a conversation about climate change. Okay, I'm not putting you in Idiot's Corner. I'm giving you an opportunity to educate yourself. So what would I have to do tomorrow? 0345 6060 973. It's 10:21.
LBC.
On your marks, get set, go! Team Sonic are back inside your McDonald's Happy Meal to celebrate the cinema release of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And don't forget about your choice of a book or toy. Some fun, some food, it's all inside this Happy Meal. Until 18th of Feb from 11 a.m. Includes one pre-selected toy or book. The Sonic 3 range comprises toys while stocks last.
Angela Rippon, what are you doing here?
I've come to tell you about using energy flexibly, Albert.
Flexibly?
Yes, smart meter owners could get rewarded for moving their energy use, like doing the laundry at off-peak times.
So I don't need to do the splits?
No, Albert. Nobody wants to see that.
Get rewarded for using energy flexibly, only with a smart meter. Search Get a Smart Meter today.
Eligibility and availability vary. Consumer action required. Reward schemes and tariffs available to selected customers from selected suppliers.
Look at him go.
He's a quality striker.
No, not him. The electrician fixing those lights.
Wow. Is he?
Yes, he uses QuickBooks to prepare for self-assessment.
This is truly game-changing.
Use QuickBooks year-round to ensure your income tax return is shock-free. That's how you business differently. Intuit QuickBooks.
Sleek lines, sharp edges, a generous interior, and an unforgettable silhouette. Choose bold design. Choose to stand out. Toyota CHR. Available in self-charging or plug-in hybrid. For a great offer, visit your nearest centre.
The Dreams Mega Clearance event is now on, with unmissable savings across a wide range of beds and mattresses. Plus, right now, when you buy a Tempur Pro Air Smart Cool mattress, you'll receive a free Mega Tempur bedding bundle worth up to £860. It's the perfect excuse for a cozy night in. Dreams. Love your bed.
James O'Brien on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
It is 23 minutes after 10 and you're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Is it bad, says Joey, that I read about Paris Hilton's house burning to the ground and simultaneously read the next article about her purchase of a new private jet that she uses on a whim and then thought, yeah, you deserve that. Maybe I'm more sensitive to Schadenfreude, however it's spelt. You're not wrong, Joe. It's not spelt like that. But you can make that claim about everybody. And they do, don't they? So I could sit here and say, oh, it'd be great if the world wasn't heating up at the rate of knots. And someone could say, well, you go on holiday. Or you own a car. So if I was made king of the world, what would I need to do tomorrow to reverse the heating of the planet? 0345 6060 973. Fiona is in Kendal, and Fiona often talks to me on subjects like this, because not least because she's done the Just Stop Oil training. But have you got an answer to the question of what we would need to do tomorrow, Fiona, if we wanted to actually start making proper, meaningful, and crucially, I think, immediate improvement?
Well, I'd like to say yes, I have, but really I've just distilled all the science that I've read and all the messages that we've been getting for many decades now. So I have got some answers. But first of all, James, and really importantly, that we all grasp this, we cannot reverse this. A lot of it now is baked in. All we can do is slow it down and get ready for what's coming. That's the problem. So,
well, the challenge remains the same. I'm now king of the world. I don't know if you heard the news. What do I do first? What do? I get up tomorrow morning. I assemble my crack team. Keith, you can have the day off tomorrow. I assemble my crack team and we start fixing things. What do we do?
Okay. So we start looking at what human beings... Sorry, my throat's not great. We start looking at what human beings really need to survive. And what human beings really need to survive is food, water. We need energy because we can't switch everything off overnight. I totally accept that. But we need those basics to be there. Our homes, we need safety, don't we? We need to feel all those things.
Hang on. No, I can't hang on because I've got loads of people waiting to talk.
We have to dismantle.
I can't hang on. I'm starting work tomorrow, and all I'm getting from you is rhetoric.
We start with dismantling the system.
What does that mean?
Got us into this mess in the first place. We turn around to the fossil fuel companies and we stop them, just like Henry Ford did almost overnight in the Second World War. He stopped making cars and he started doing war prep. We put everything on a war footing. As a government here, you and me or whoever would be there, would be reaching out to all the countries in the world and we'd be signing a non-proliferation treaty to say